Number one, I think, is just find a mentor. Like at a young age, you don't really know what the world is. You think you know, but people like me and older, they have a lot of experience and you can learn from their experience. And that makes you have a shortcut to success. That's the only shortcut to success. Learning from people that have already been down a path and being willing to listen.
Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Saul De La Rosa and I'm here with the wolf of real estate. He's done over $500 billion worth of leasing and sales in the South Florida market. He is the founder and CEO of Wolfco. He is none other than Mr. Barrett Wolf. How are you today?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I love it. Thank you for being on the show.
Of course.
Could you tell me a little bit about what your company does from a day-to-day and maybe how you would describe your specific profession?
100%. So we're a full-service real estate brokerage and investment firm. So what does that mean? Kind of a broker is someone who's always in the middle of everything. That's the easiest way to describe it. In real estate, you have residential, which happens to be condos, single-family homes, and then you have commercial, which is multifamily, which means multiple units, a multiple-unit building, office, which is like an office building like the one we're sitting in, retail, which is kind of if you go to a Target or a Walmart or a Whole Foods, those are retail strip centers. Then you have industrial, which is more like Amazon distribution. I mean, list goes on in terms of industrial. And basically I focus in office, retail, industrial, and multifamily on the leasing side and the investment sales side. So to your question, what do we do? On the leasing side, 50% of my business is basically representing owners, like the owner of the building that we're sitting in here today, which is Turnberry Plaza in Aventura, Florida, which is an office building. For example, we represent that owner to basically lease every single space in his building. So anyone that comes, any space that comes available is our responsibility. We do the same thing for retail. We do the same thing for industrial. And on the flip side, the tenants that come into this building, those companies, let's call it, it could be a law firm, it could be, a doctor, it could be an insurance company. We also represent a lot of those companies and bring them not just to our own buildings, but to other buildings and all over the state of Florida. And then on the investment sales side, we represent and are lucky enough to represent some of the largest developers, multifamily developers in Florida to find sites for them off market. We also represent one of the largest private industrial developers, Scannell Properties. And we've been given a blessing to be able to source sites for them throughout the state of Florida. And on the flip side of that, once the projects are developed, we also have strong relationships that are able to sell them off market.
Wow.
A lot of stuff.
And back to the leasing side, basically what you're ending up doing is you're marketing these properties, you're showing them to potential lessees. Is that what you would call them?
We have the full responsibility to go out and make sure the property is 100% leased. I built my career by thinking, and this is how I basically do my business, and everyone who works for me and every client that I have knows this. I will not go to sleep I will not sleep well unless every single space is leased. So what does that also mean? Not only do we have to make sure the spaces are occupied, but we need to be pushing rents. We need to stay ahead of the competition. We need to make sure that other buildings in the market are not getting higher rents than us and have a higher occupancy. We need to be the number one game in town. And when you hire me and my firm, you know that 100% that's going to be, or we're going to die trying.
I love it. Could you tell me a little bit about what a person in your field could make in a given year?
It's a good question, and it's a big scale.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's people in every industry that can work, like we're brokers, right? So we don't work for a salary. I was blessed enough to start my career working for the Sofer family. One of the greatest experiences of my entire life, getting to work around legends of basically real estate, the best of the best of the best, that treated me like family and brought me in. I started my career working with Jackie Sofer, learning the leasing business. The leasing business is kind of the lifeblood of the game, right?
Right.
When I worked for them, they're a developer. I was making a salary. People like me now, fast forward, when I became a broker, I basically don't have a salary. So if I don't do leases or I don't sell property, then I make zero, right? So that's what I lived with on a daily basis. There could be a day, which will never happen because I personally would never allow it, that I can go making no money. But there's no ceiling. So if I want to go out and I want to work, and this is what brought me and lured me to being an entrepreneur, which is what being a broker really is that if there's one person I learned that you should put all your faith in, it is yourself, right?
Okay.
So I believe wholeheartedly in myself. And I believe that I'm going to have no ceiling and I'm capable to earn whatever I want. So back to your question. You can make zero, and there's brokers that are making 10 to 20 million a year in commission. So there's a huge scale, right?
How can somebody scale their business mainly in real estate from, say, that zero section to that 6-figure, 7-figure, and even 10-figure number?
It's a great question also, but it starts with a strong foundation. So like anything, if you're going to build something into something great like the pyramids, you must have a strong foundation first. So everyone nowadays, unfortunately, especially young generation, they think and see on social media that there's all these young people making money in an instant. Everyone's trying to sell you to get rich quick. In brokerage, to get to the top, you need to put in the time. So you need to have clear, defined goals. You need to have market knowledge, immense market knowledge. Remember, there's clients out there. There's a lot of business to be had. If you check on, Traded, or you check the news, you're going to see huge deals being done every day. Every single broker is fighting for that business, right? So only the best are going to be ones getting that business. So strong foundation. These are core principles for me that I teach every single broker that works for me. One, you need to be incredible at all the controllables. So everything that's in your control, you must do better than everyone else. What does that mean? Is understanding the market in your control? Yes. Is getting out there and networking, meeting other brokers in your control? Yes. Is trying to find opportunities and think outside of the box that don't exist in your control? Yes. Is coming to work every single day in your control? Yes. Is finding a mentor or someone to work with that knows what they're doing, that's willing to teach you in your control? Yes. If you start with those 5 things, the rest will take it by itself, and then you'll start to build. And unfortunately, but fortunately, in the real estate business, if you ask anyone that's been doing it a very long time, it takes 2 years to build your career up in real estate if you're going to be a broker. So when I tell all the guys that work for me, and this goes the same for me, the way you can get into this business and get to the top is find a way and be willing to work 2 or 3 jobs, especially in the first 6 months. So if you have a skill that you can do and you work off hours just to get you to go by, then that'll enable you to stay in the game, because 99% of the people quit.
Very interesting. You said something very, very eye-catching when you said about get rich quick. So you don't think there's any shortcuts to true success, right?
I don't think there's any shortcuts to success, not just in real estate, but in life. Like everything great that is ever received is earned. That's the most important fact. It's earned. If you look at any great athlete, like for example, take the Olympics. We just watched the gold medal. You just watched Steph Curry and LeBron James close it out with all the pressure on the line, right? They didn't just go into that gym and be able to do what they're doing. They spent hundreds of thousands of hours, not only training physically, but mentally as well. And to get to that point where they can perform under the pressure and be the best in the world, it took a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and now, yes, do they get paid? They deserve it, right?
100%.
And that's how basically in real estate, you have to earn your time too, which I'm still earning.
So what kind of steps can a young person watching this video take in order to be successful in this field?
I think number one, I would say is get a mentor. Like you saw, I was very, very lucky to have you join my firm. We were just telling the story before this interview of how you came in my office, walked up to me, you saw what we were doing, you came and took it upon yourself to go for the opportunity because you wanted to learn. That is the number one thing that any young person can learn from your story. And now we're sitting here 2 years later. You came back again, and all you do every day that you're here is try to learn more. You come into my office, you push. So number one, I think, is just find a mentor. Like at a young age, you don't really know what the world is. You think you know, but people like me and older, they have a lot of experience, and you can learn from their experience. And that makes you have a shortcut to success. That's the only shortcut to success. Learning from people that have already been down a path and being willing to listen.
Thank you so much for those kind words, Barrett. You started this industry when you were very young. Do you think that other people who want to go into the real estate world should go into a similar stream like leasing, brokerage, and that, or should they try their hand at other avenues like residential or maybe development?
It's a great question also. So me personally, part of the story that I didn't tell you is my whole entire life, I was always, you want to use the word, the plug. Every single thing with all my friend group, every single time, was them calling me and me setting everything up. That started with parties, clubs, tables, I don't know, booking the restaurant reservations, planning trips, whatever it is, it was always me going out because I like to talk to people. Like I like to be and meet people so I can learn. The greatest thing for me is every day is an opportunity to learn. And if you don't talk to people that you've never spoken to before, then how do you're missing out on learning something, right? From their experience or what they did. So I always knew that I like to talk to people. I always knew that I like to negotiate. I've been negotiating. A funny story, a quick sidetrack is the friend that I told you about in the Hamptons, he paid me and his son to paint this huge, long, white picket fence. And he was going to Ireland to play golf. And the fence was, I don't know, probably a mile long. So my friend and I were like, and he was going to pay us, and I think he was paying us $500 to paint the fence, which is a lot of money for two little kids, right? So we took it upon ourselves at that time to realize that there were workers in town that you could hire. So we're like, okay, he's paying us $500. Why not go to them, pay them $250, have them paint the fence? Then when they get back, basically when he gets back, he's going to see the white picket fence. We're going to get the 500, give them the 250, make 250 for doing nothing. Bad part of that story is he came back a little bit earlier than expected, saw all the workers and went ballistic. But the point is that like I've always loved to broker. So for me, brokerage is number one. That's how I wanted to start. Leasing, I think it's the lifeblood of real estate. So we talked about investment sales, we talked about leasing. For example, this building that we're in, it is worth nothing unless it's leased, right? The more it's leased with the credit of the tenant and just the tenant itself, the more the value is worth, the more the value of the building. So I think every single new person into real estate, a great way to start is leasing. I think that if you're, I don't know, an engineer type, if you like architecture, if you like, I don't know, when you're a kid, you like building things, going into development, architecture, maybe engineering, that should be your direction and focus. If you have a mix of both, go to work for a developer and basically you'll get to do what I did and experience everything, then pick which one that you like the most.
So I see you wear your suit every single day and everybody in the office follows suit to that as well. What's the importance of dressing the part and looking the part?
So it goes back to when we started the interview. I said, to be the best broker, you need to do the controllables better than everyone else.
Right.
So how you feel is how you act, is how you sell, is how you do, right? So every single day when I wake up, since I started in the business, I actually used to wear a suit and tie. Now I got the suit, no tie, Miami style. But basically, if you see me in the street, if you see me in downtown Miami, if you see me in Brickell, if you see me at Aventura at the Starbucks, you're going to be like, who is this guy? Like, this guy looks great. And every day I look, and why do I look great? Because everyone else doesn't want to take the time to go and put on a suit, put on a shirt and tie, maybe because it's too hot, maybe because it's too difficult. For me, I want to dress to impress. I want my clients and anyone who sees me to know that I'm serious and that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to represent them in the best way possible.
So I'd like to take a quick moment to say something about our partners at Career Road. Career Road is a nonprofit organization with the mission of helping high school students, college students, and young people alike receive real-life career advice from successful people in their respective fields. So they're determined to help improve the lives of young people one interview at a time. If you want to learn more about different careers or even become part of the movement, like as a student ambassador to make interviews like this one yourself, go to careerroad.org and take a look at it. You're obviously very fit, and I know sports and wellness has always been a big part of your life. Would you say that fitness played a large role in your success, and would you recommend it for young people to make it a priority in their lives?
1,000,000,000%. So tennis, I was lucky enough to be able to play tennis at a very high level, top Division I tennis player, played some pro tournaments as well. And after I stopped playing tennis, fitness became like my lifeline. As soon as I went into working, without playing tennis every day, there was a void, a gap, which is probably common among a lot of young people transitioning. But what I see is I see a lot of young people just give it up. They give up the physical aspect and they just focus all in on work. Fast forward many years, I realized that you need to have a strong life balance. You can work hard, but for me, the fitness, number one, it keeps me balanced. It keeps me on track. Every single day I wake up every morning, 6 a.m. Before I go to work, I work out and spend an hour and a half working out. I put on my suit, have breakfast, come to work. That's every single day, whether I'm traveling or whether I'm here or even on vacation. It's like clockwork. So I have 2 steps that are basically every single day. I don't question. Are there days that I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go? 100%, but now I'm like a robot. So I program myself. And what that enables me to do is perform at an extremely high level because my mind is clear. If I have any stress, rather than, I don't want to talk badly about anyone, but there's other things you can do besides work out, which is 1, sleep late, drink, do other things. And for me, the working out keeps everything in balance. The next part is like working out and pushing yourself every day is challenging, right?
Of course.
And real estate, brokerage, or any work is extremely challenging. And only the strong survive. So if you continue to push yourself, lifting weights, I don't know what it is. Like what I do is I set monthly goals for myself. What do I want? Keep going. Do I want to improve my strength? Whether that's like, do I want my bench press to go up 5-10 pounds? Do I want, I don't know, to be able to do 20 sets of 5 in a certain exercise? Whatever I do, I'm always setting goals for myself to push beyond. And that translates directly into work. So I think 100%, if you're young out there and you have time, because if every single person has time, if you're spending 1 hour of the day scrolling on your phone, spend that 1 hour for yourself, go into the gym, get fit.
That definitely goes back hand in hand with what you were saying with the suit. You walk into Starbucks and they see a fit person wearing a suit, looking good, feeling good. They start to treat you differently. And that definitely helps with your career, doesn't it?
100%. And I think that because I'm a broker and my job is to serve my client, if my client, for example, the owner of a building, I walk in, the requirements of what it takes to be able to fill a building, and not everything is easy. It's extremely difficult and challenging. If I walk in and I'm fit, the first thing that guy's thinking about is he cares for himself. If he can care for himself, he can care for me. If I walk into the meeting like a slob, then what's he gonna think? Like, this guy can't even take care of himself. How's he gonna work 24/7? His clients want, like, I'm available 24/7. You call me at any time, I'll have the same energy that I have with you at 12 in the morning, 2 in the morning, doesn't matter. So 100%.
So when I was interning for you, you always made it very clear that integrity and honesty are some of the most important things in a business career. How important have those traits been in scaling your business?
I think it's the number one thing. So in life, I learned this from a very, very wise man, big time real estate developer when I first got into the business. When he said, Barrett, you have one reputation and that's it, one chance. And unfortunately in Miami, as an example, in South Florida, someone's word is not their bond anymore. If you talk to older people, like guys in their 60s, 70s, they used to say to you, I shake someone's hand and that's my word is my bond. For me, and like I used to tell every intern, it doesn't work like that, unfortunately, anymore. But for me personally, and for everyone who works in my firm, honesty, integrity is number one. Yes, we're in the business to make money. Yes, we're a for-profit. But I will never, ever, me personally, or anyone who works for me, put my honor and integrity before money.
A lot.
Or after money. Of course, we'll put it way before money.
So you were telling me a little bit about the adversity that you faced in your earlier years, and I'm sure you still face setbacks and challenges in your day-to-day life as a broker. How do you overcome these challenges and setbacks, and what advice would you give to other people struggling with adversity in their day-to-day life?
Actually, incredible question. So every single day as a real estate broker, and in a lot of professions, but especially a real estate broker, it's just like the market, right? There's ups and downs. Every day, the reason why people pay us a lot of money and we make these fees is because when a problem arises, it's our job to solve it, right? So my life, like I told you, there's things that were unfortunate but fortunate. Having a tough childhood, if you want to call it a tough childhood, or struggling through adversity, playing tennis, for example, and having to win matches come from behind. There's a lot of stuff we didn't talk about. All those things made me tougher, right? So when something comes up in my daily life in business, what I learned is, number one, take a deep breath and take a step back. So once you take a deep breath and take a step back, then you can look at the situation in a different perspective. Sometimes people get so into something, as soon as something comes up, they freak out and they panic, right? So they make irrational decisions. You have to remember, in commercial real estate, it's not like residential. There's no emotions involved in commercial real estate. All it is business, right? So business is not personal. That's a number one rule that you must know. So when something happens, what I tend to do is I take a step back, I read the situation, and then I think. And I think of every different angle because I'm not in a rush. I don't need to be rushed. So a problem has arisen and I have to solve it. So I take my time. Once I take my time and I figure out which strategy I'm going to have, I map out the strategy, I then play the strategy. If it doesn't work out and I really, really, really want the deal, sometimes I give it a couple days, sometimes it could take weeks, sometimes it takes months, but I never give up. I will never give up on something that my client wants or that I want. So I don't get all worked up. I now am a little bit more relaxed. If you're struggling with adversity in your life, the one thing I can tell you is keep believing in yourself and don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough to do something or that you can't complete something. Stick to your guns. Hopefully, again, you have a good mentor and good voice and good support system around you. Keep pushing and do not give up, and you will overcome that adversity, and that situation will shape your entire rest of your life.
Write that down. You got over there. Say, how important would you say delayed gratification is in building success?
I mean, I think it's one of the greatest things in brokerage of all time. So there's deals that, for example, I've worked on huge deals that have taken years to be done. There's deals that have fallen apart that out of nowhere, one side changes their mind and comes back to me when I thought the deal was dead. It could be a $200,000 or $400,000 commission. And I've done all this work and the deal fell apart. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, the guy comes back and he's like, we want to move forward with the deal, and both sides aligned. And then you get the gratification of closing that deal, not giving up. So I always say to everyone, another key, which I didn't answer before in brokerage, is follow up. Follow up is the most important thing. Keep organized and follow up. So in what I love about my business is deals can fall apart, like I just told you, and then they can just come back. And in a drop of a dime, market conditions change, things that are outside of your control. So I'd say those are key factors. And what can that answers that question?
Hey, throughout the interview, you've definitely given incredible insight into the real estate world and incredible ways and tips for young people to improve their lives. If there's any other guidance you might have left out, what would be the best piece of advice that you would like to give to the younger generation watching?
So if I could give one word of advice to the younger generation that I haven't said is, and I know this is a tough one because I'm also a parent myself, is that if you have the blessing to have parents that care about you, that try to help you, that may push you to levels that maybe you're uncomfortable with, or you don't want to listen because it's your mom or your dad, but they've had life experience. Remember that they're trying to do best by you to help you. Your parents and your family are the only ones in your life that want the best for you and will never hurt you. They'll always do what's from their heart and from their experience. So my advice is, if you guys are out there and you're thinking and you're lost, which is normal at a young age, talk to your parents In addition to what I told you, finding a mentor. Don't let your pride step in the way of your success. Don't let it. Go and talk, have an open conversation, no matter what the relationship is, and try to learn and listen. The more, like my dad used to say to me, he's like, Barrett, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. God wants you to listen. So the key is like for me, I tell you, I always want to learn. I'm never too good to learn. So get what's around you, see your support system, try to have a conversation. It could be your uncle, it could be someone in your family that you're close to that you never listened to. Open up to them, listen to them because they care about you. And then take that and use it to push you forward.
I know you have immense business knowledge and mind for all things entrepreneurial, but I'd like to take it way back to before any of this started and kind of get a background on yourself and some of the things that it took to build the empire that you've created today.
So we're going deep back. So I grew up in Boston, in a little town outside of Boston called Wellesley. Came from a well-to-do family. Father was an entrepreneur. He was an accountant. My mother was also an entrepreneur, had her own retail business. So I grew up around 2 parents that were hustling all the time to get what we had. And then unfortunately took a setback. My father lost everything actually, went from 2 extremes. And we moved, at the time we were in Boston and we were in Boca Raton. And my mom loved Florida because both my brother and I, my older brother, were athletes. So she loved Florida, and I started playing tennis at a really young age, at 2 years old. My brother also played tennis. So as soon as we lost everything, we moved to Florida. A couple years after we moved to Florida, unfortunately, my parents got divorced. But fortunately, because that was one of the things that shaped my whole life, they got divorced. My dad kind of moved away, and my mom ended up raising me by herself for many years. That shaped kind of my next chapter, which is we lived in Boca. I was playing tennis full time. Then we moved to Delray so that she could put me into this amazing private school, which is called Gulfstream School, which also was a huge factor in shaping me. My mom always wanted to have me around successful, wealthy families. She wanted me to be in a good environment around winners because she grew up with the same mentality that I have, as well as my father, which is hard work is the only way to get to where you want to go. So I graduated from Gulfstream, which went to 8th grade. And unfortunately, at that time, also because of financial aid, I could not go to another private school or to prep school. So I ended up going to Spanish River High School, which is in Boca Raton, which was also another amazing experience for me. So I went from a class of 20 kids to a graduating class of over 1,000.
Wow.
And in that high school experience, I learned the saying, which is the cream rises to the top. From there, a mix of 1,000 kids, I got straight A's. I joined all the biggest clubs I could. I joined the debate club. I was number 1 on the tennis team. We got to the state championship. And I really, during that period, continued to kind of refine my skill set. After Spanish River, I went to go to Boston University, where I played number 1 on the tennis team at BU. My father, who then at the time was coming back into my life, he lived in Boston. So really I wanted to go to BU because my father went there and his mother had worked there. So there was a connection. So I ended up going to BU, to the business school, studied there. Also, again, played number 1 on the tennis team. But really that chapter of my life also kind of shaped who I am today. Was in a new world, didn't know anyone. I went to BU. I never even visited the campus ever. I hadn't been back to Boston since I was a little kid. I went on campus, didn't know one person, to staying there for the full 4 years, and then wound up back here in South Florida.
Well, what a story. What was that experience like moving back to where you were raised and pursuing what you wanted to do, which was inevitably tennis?
It was a really awesome feeling, actually, to make my way back there to where it all started. I had amazing memories. I was a little kid, but as a family together in Boston, a lot of my immediate family lived in Boston, so it just felt good to earn my way back.
Could you tell me a little bit about what field you decided to inevitably pursue a career in and how you ended up getting to that point?
So it's a funny story how I got into real estate. I went to BU thinking I wanted to be a hedge fund manager. That was my goal. I wanted to go to BU business school, to the business school, to become a hedge fund manager. The way I got that idea in my head was we didn't have social media back then. So now young kids, you can get access to a lot of successful people, see their lives, which is an amazing thing. But back then, I didn't know anything. Lucky enough, because my mom had put me into that prep school in Del Rey, my best friend, his father lived in the Hamptons. So I was lucky enough and blessed to be able to go spend 3-4 weeks in the Hamptons. And I used to see all these hedge fund guys driving around fancy cars. And I also was exposed at that time to real estate players, especially him, who happened to be one of the largest developers in the Hamptons before the Hamptons became the Hamptons. So he was one of the largest landowners, and I got exposure to him and all of his friends. So when I went to BU, I was blessed to be able to have the thought in my head of kind of the direction I wanted to go. When I got to BU and I was playing tennis, there was a gentleman that used to come to every single home match that I had. He'd pull up in a mink coat, kind of like in the Rocky movie, like Don King, come up in a Porsche with a mink coat, come to the first court and watch me. One day after like 3 matches, I always was like, who the hell is this guy? And all my friends on the team were like, who is this guy? One day after the match, he comes up and he's like, do you mind? Like, he introduced himself and he's like, do you mind if maybe you could teach me tennis? He's like, I love how you play. I love your attitude. I love your work ethic. Can you teach me tennis? Fast forward, started coaching him a little bit, played with him a couple of times. He ended up owning a big real estate company in Boston. And I don't know, 6 months later, he's like, why don't you come and intern for me while you're in school and see how you like it? So from that moment, I went to his office, I interned for 1 day, and during that experience, I'm like, I love this. And basically, it spiraled, it went to where it is today. That's how I started.
And that's how you ended up with the summit that you have now, Wolfco, correct?
100%. That was the first stepping stone.
What a story. Where can people find you outside of this interview? Social media, website, etc.
The number one place you can try to find me is I'll have a profile page on Career Roads. You can search me there and message me, and I'm happy to answer for all of you guys that have any questions. You can also reach me on my own Instagram, Barrett Wolfco _Wolfco, or on our company page at Real Wolfco. You can also come to us at our website, www.wolfco-re.com, or shoot me an email or LinkedIn, whatever you want.
Barrett, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. Thank you for supporting Career Road and for supporting me. You've given priceless information to countless young individuals.
Firstly, I want to thank you for having me at this interview. I want to thank you for stepping forward, for working so hard, for being someone who wants to listen, who wants to rise to the top. People like you make me do what I want to do on a daily basis, and you make me better. So thank you very much for everything you're doing, and you're going to be extremely successful. So you guys who are watching, you want to have success, try, and you're young, try to follow this guy.
Once again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I want to give a final huge shout out to Career Road for making this possible, for bringing out this incredible production team to make this interview a reality. That being said, let's talk the tape.
Let's get it, baby. Let's get it.